Red.
Hi there, welcome to this evening's show. It's all about purpose. We're going to have a great show tonight here. I'm Jo, and this is my business partner and friend, Mahmood. If you're watching on replay, that's great. It's wonderful to have you. Just put #replay in the comments and we will catch up with you and answer all your comments and questions after the show. And of course, if you're watching live, a really big welcome. We're super pleased to have you here. Drop in the comments, let us know where you're watching from, and also join in the conversation, because this evening we're talking about purpose, aren't we, Mahmood?
Absolutely, and it's a really probably an understated, underplayed thing here. We've got many big companies that have used that. I think we're going to make a reference to Apple later on. So purpose-led business, definitely one that increases the bottom line, increases market share, and has lots of other benefits to bring to it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it just makes for a more fulfilling enterprise, entrepreneurship experience, doesn't it? To be able to be creating something and shaping something that's doing some good and that has a clear mission. It's not just all about the money, although the money is important too. And it's important for purpose-led businesses as well, as we'll talk about a little bit later. So we'll get started. And what's your interpretation then, Mahmood, of the word purpose? What do you think it's all about?
That's an interesting question there, Jo. I think you're right in terms of picking up on that thing about money. I think if you are a business that chases money for money's sake, then you're really not going to survive very well. You might have a short-term gain, but effectively it's about what's your reason, what's your why, what's your rationale for doing what you do here. I think for us, it's about blending the business approach, the business-minded approach, but a business has got to be driven by your why. A business has got to be driven by your whole reason for doing it. And if it's money is your focus, your reason for doing it, I think that's going to be very difficult to build on that and sustain it.
Yeah, and actually all the research supports that, which is, businesses that are just doing it for the money are quite short-lived in the main. So purpose, we know for sure, really helps a business to survive and grow. And I think you're so right, Mahmood, it's about starting with the why, which is that whole Simon Sinek stuff, start with why. And some businesses actually struggle to find their why. For some businesses, it's easy and it's pretty straightforward. And others, it can be a little bit more difficult. And if people, if you're listening in and you're not sure what, you may or may not have read or heard of or watched Simon Sinek talk about why. He says, think about the why you're doing what you're doing as a business, an organisation, before you think about what you do and how you do it. And he famously used Apple's think differently as the why, think different as the why Apple do things. And that thinking differently is a different design, a different approach to quality, and a whole different view in terms of what the customer experience is like. So yeah, it's about starting with why, and sometimes that's easier to define than others because there are different business types, aren't there? And for some it's really clear what the purpose is, and for others less clear.
Yeah, I think that, for example, is a great one. I believe Simon drew that little bit of circle here and thinking if Apple was a conventional product-based business here, the whole marketing messages would be different, the whole communications would be different, and they saw themselves as disruptors, unique features and all the rest of it. And I think a lot of people probably scoffed at Apple in the early stages thinking what's going on here, but they managed to build themselves up to a very successful, cash-rich, growing company year on year there as well. So yeah, I think having a reason for why, even though I think there's a bit of a connection for me, Jo, what your thoughts are. When we go right back to our first broadcast on this topic here, we were talking about people identifying their goals, their northern stars. Once they've done that, they've got something to aim for and then building a route map to get there. I think the why, the purpose, does the same thing. So when you are tempted to think, oh, let me go down this direction, I've got a shiny bauble, I'm going to do this, come back to your why, and it's much easier to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's if there are social enterprises and community interest companies and charities where there's a really clear why. For private businesses, for some of them, there's a really clear why as well. But I also find, I don't know what your experience of this is, I mean, that sometimes business owners find it hard to articulate their why. They find it hard to put the finger on it and do it in a way that's not really very clear.
I mean, I think to be fair to, I suppose, I've seen this move also for very large multinational corporates here. The old byline used to be the whole objective of a private company is to maximise value and wealth for the shareholders. Okay, that's the drum that's been beaten for decades and decades and decades. And I think lots of private businesses latch onto that same thing as saying our purpose is to make profit, maximise wealth. There's been a shift even for the larger corporates trickling down, where they're actually blending in other elements more than a PR exercise, going to the social, the environmental, and all the rest of it. So I think that's probably part of it, because I think lots of entrepreneurs and business owners grow up to say the whole purpose is to make money. But actually what they're finding is that actually that in itself, is not a very good why. So I can sympathise for why businesses have that problem doing it, but I certainly think they need to actually probably discover their why if they're going to sort of build on what they've got already.
Yeah, and how, in terms of working with businesses who aren't sure about what the why is or who are struggling to articulate it, a good thing to do is to ask, why do you do what you do, and keep answering, answer the next question with a why, if that makes sense. So why do you do what you do? It's because of X, Y, Z. Why is it because of X, Y, Z? Answer that and keep asking why. Keep asking why until you can't ask why anymore. And that's really the core, the core purpose of the business. Sometimes people stop asking why too soon, and what they get is a superficial purpose, not the real purpose of the business. And it's important to know what that is and to be really clear about it, because firstly, it's about expressing it so that your customers understand and can buy into that and can support it. They know what you're all about, and it will differentiate you from the market. It's also important for employees and the team, because, who just wants to be a machine, we're working away making money all day. Actually, we all want to contribute to something that's bigger than ourselves and feel that we're making a difference. So that purpose is fantastic for employees as well as yourself as an entrepreneur as well. So I think it's really important. We've had some great purpose-led businesses on the show, haven't we? Members of the Business Growth Club.
We have, Jo, and I think you mentioned earlier on about all the different business models that you can have, the business structures like social enterprise, CICs, charities, private companies here, and all the previous business club members have been across those spectrums. So from a CIC, a community interest company, to ones that are more private based there as well. They all have identified a purpose, their reason for doing it, their reason why. And I think once that penny drops, that click happens, it's been much easier for them to develop their business model. So it's been great examples from Hannah, from Sarah. We've got some guests coming on later on in next week and beyond. So different business models, different business forms, doesn't stop you having that why. What of that can continue iteration there, Jo. For those businesses that find it difficult to do that, challenging themselves and having that awareness, would you sort of recommend anything for them that could help them?
Yeah, I think it's it all goes back to, why do you get out of bed to do what you do every morning? And is it all about the money? For some people, it is just all about the money, and it's about acquiring a certain lifestyle as quickly as possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. Making money, as long as you do it, legally and professionally and all of those good things, it creates jobs, it's good for the economy, indirectly, that's having a greater social purpose as well, of course. But if you're thinking, well, I'm actually doing so much good here, it's not just about the money, I want to be creating something, I want to be shaping something that makes a difference. Think about what that core motivation is, in here, in terms of what's really driving you to do what you do. What do you feel so super passionately about that, you would, you'd fight for, you'd campaign for, because it means something to you.
Very much so. And I think it's strange, actually. I find that a social enterprise is probably that hybrid between a charity, which may rely just on trust, donations and grants, and a private company, which is predominantly about making money. It's a blend. So it's a great example to showcase, I think, about what we mean by purpose. So you might want to do something for your community. You might want to do something that has an impact in people's livelihoods, their health, their well-being. That's your purpose. Anything you do, your communication messages, how you interact with your stakeholders, how you treat your staff, what you expect of your staff, how you go about making money. It's an easier thing to identify with in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, it could be creating a great place to work. It could be creating jobs and employment that is fulfilling, where people learn and grow and feel it's an amazing place to be. So that purpose could be something that's really big and environmental. It could be about making a difference to climate change, for instance. So we know that that Rachel, who's been on the show, I think it was last week, from Nut and Noggin, with her plastic-free, vegan, no nasties shampoo. She's created a product that actually works fantastically well, and it has this bigger purpose. And there's money being reinvested from her business into doing greater good as well. So you can have a private company and actually do all sorts of fantastic things, even if it's improving the lives of the employees and the team and the people that you work with and serving customers.
Yeah, I think that's true, Jake. I mean, you take the private company there. I don't know what your thoughts are. Is that your why could be to create a positive work environment for your employees, where they can grow, where they can learn, they can earn a decent level of money, they can do good. You serve your customers, you can help people. If that's your why, that is your why. I think that's. I mean, do you think even at that sort of micro level that why stands on its own 2 feet?
I do actually. I do. As long as you're enjoying the activities and that you're feeling that what you're doing also makes a difference for the customers. So there's the employee side and there's the customer side as well. And over the years, I've worked with some really great social enterprises whose purpose has been all about actually creating job opportunities for people that wouldn't normally have access to those opportunities. So maybe disabled employees or people that don't have access to to the training or exposure to see that actually those opportunities could be for them. And I think that's a great thing. It doesn't have to be the entire business. I also know businesses who have who make sure that they recruit so many people to help give them a leg up into that new level of opportunity that they might not otherwise have had. And for me, as you know, I do a lot of virtual facilitation. I like to bring people together and work on innovation. And for me, it's about the purpose is about opening doors to opportunity. And sometimes people don't even know that they're there. And it's really unlocking that. And that's where I get my buzz from. That's what my purpose is really. What about you and numbers? Talk to us about your purpose and numbers.
Well, I think for me, it's probably 2 or 3 aspects to the why. Is one, I'm not too keen on business owners, whether they're in a social enterprise space, a private space here, working lots of hours, lots of energy, and not actually making a decent level of money, not making a decent return for themselves and their family. So therefore, for me, it's trying to unlock that power and get them closer to those numbers, for example, and those numbers actually inject a level of sustainability. It means that they can have better lives, they can enjoy their businesses more. I do meet a lot of business owners that don't actually enjoy what they're doing because they've lost that bit of mojo, they've lost that bit of why. I come from a background that I love helping people, and I like making money as well, by the way. So for me, it's actually all those. It's trying to improve the literacy of people so they can actually understand what they're doing and the impact that it has. And for me, it's just an empowering thing. So for me, it's a transformation element there that I like to see.
Yeah, and you clearly must love what you do because you've been there. And I like to mention this frequently on our show because I think it really deserves the credit that you've been there since March, absolutely on point and very quickly assimilating all the information from the Treasury and from what's going on with COVID and really helping get that message out to small businesses in a way that is really clear and in a way that answers everybody's questions. And you've just, you've continuously served, I think, and continue to serve the small business community with that. And you can see that that's your purpose in action. That's you doing your thing, and it's wonderful. And I think that's why our joint purpose, although we're in, I guess, different fields of expertise in one way,
yeah,
we've got
sure.
a purpose, haven't we? Which is Yeah.
I've always said that. I mean, interesting. I mean, if we talk about the Growth Club, for example, when we both met and when we started talking to it, obviously I've got my own thoughts here. I'm going to put you on the spot. You didn't accept me to ask this question. What do you think that the why is for us in the Business Growth Club?
I think our why is about opportunity. Is we want to create opportunity. We want to help people create the businesses that they're proud of, that they feel great about, where they're fulfilling their potential, and they're not, they're not worrying about money. They're not worrying about opportunity. They're working at it, but they feel like they've got this, and then they know where they're heading. So that's what I think our why is. What would you say?
I think I agree with that. I think one of the reasons that we connected, that we're working together. So first of all, we had that shared value system, which solidified the why. We had that shared identity of what we wanted from a business growth program, and that was what I would call some substance and solidity behind a growth plan. We both thought the why was that businesses needed to identify with growth, otherwise they would be going backwards and they would suffer as a result of it. Trying to inject a bit more, I suppose, connection back with their businesses, feeling that idea of feeling lost here. So for me, that why condensed into, yes, obviously we want to help businesses, we want to create opportunities for them, but actually we want to give them the tools and the facilities to do that. I think our first iteration of the Business Growth Club, I would say that obviously because we're sitting to talk to each other, I thought we achieved great things. I think our candidates, our delegates, our attendees, I don't know what you want to call them, did marvelously. So that was a great learning experience. And I think another why for me was actually for me to actually learn from the whole experiences and to make sure that we connected to lots of businesses of different types and blending that skill. So that, I think the why was great. And why hasn't finished. And it's just great to see it continue.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, about purpose, is that purpose doesn't have to stay fixed in stone. And maybe there are, if you're watching, you might disagree with some of what I'm about to say. That's fine. Do let us know, because we'd love to hear your thoughts. Because purpose can change, it can flex, and it can evolve as the world around us changes, as we grow more and we learn more, we experience more. Of course, we're going to sort of grow into our purpose as well. So I think that purpose can expand, it can change, but still sort of, keep the same root that it had. And it's important to learn and evolve. So I've been learning all along the way as well. Mahmood, it's been a really interesting journey. And I think it is the business owners in general. I'm not talking about our Growth Club members here. I'm talking about more generally, who aren't clear on their purpose, where they lose their mojo, and also where business owners are feeling a little bit, underconfident about promoting themselves, about selling their business, about getting out there and spreading the word about what they're doing. I think it's because they haven't really resonated with their purpose strongly enough. Because when our purpose is strong and burning, and really there and very present inside us, we sort of see past all of that, and we just want to get out there and we want to do our stuff and we want to make that difference. So I think purpose gives us confidence. It helps us to step forward, and it keeps us excited and motivated about what we're doing.
I'd agree with that, and I think I'd add to that, Jo. A few things. Just like planning, purpose isn't actually a rigid thing. It's not a straitjacket. It's about something. We all change. I mean, if we look at ourselves where we are now in our lives compared to, say, 15, 20 years ago, it's unlikely we're exactly the same sort of people. Our value systems may have modified slightly. We may look at things differently. We may, wish to do different things in our lives. And it's the same with your business. Your business purpose ebbs and flows. It goes within certain parameters, but it ebbs and flows. Secondly, I think for me, purpose gives you clarity. So when you've got clarity and you've got focus and you know why you're doing something, it makes it much easier to say no to things. It makes it much easier to say, yes, this is the route I'm going to take it. It makes it much easier to make decisions in your business. Not easy, but easier. And I just think purpose, really, it's like a light bulb moment that goes on in some people's heads. They think, that's my why. It may be completely different to what they're doing already, which is fine. It may be something that actually is an extension of what they're doing. But I just think running a business without a sense of purpose, running a business without that why behind it, I just think all you're going to be doing, it's like a hamster as well. You're just going through emotions, and you end up, I think, sometimes like an employee and not a business owner.
Yeah. And you look back and you say, you know, I've invested all this time, all this money, all this effort, and even if I've, you know, made a shed load of money, what have I achieved? You know, am I pleased with the legacy that I've created? Am I pleased with the imprint that I've made in the world? And I think it was wonderful when, and Hannah talked about this on the show a few weeks back, which if you're watching and you've not seen the show with Hannah, do pop back and have a look, because Hannah has got a great book that's coming out to help children really understand all the different, you know, hormones and chemicals and stuff to do with emotion, how they're feeling and how to use that. She's really very driven, and actually connecting with her purpose has made her, you know, go out, get the book done, get a publisher and really go for it and speak out about it. And that's wonderful. And also the research shows, there was a big piece actually done by Deloitte on purpose and businesses, and they researched around 4,000 businesses, and this was 2019 research, and it showed that businesses with a really clear purpose sold more, lasted longer, had greater customer loyalty, had greater employee engagement, greater customer satisfaction. And I think the way the world's going, and you mentioned it earlier, Mahmood, is that as customers, the choices that we make, our buying decisions that we make, reflect who we are, they reflect our values. So we really associate our choices of where we spend our money with the values that we have, and more as customers, either in the B2B or B2C sectors, then it's, you know, people want to really make good choices that make a difference to the world if possible, I think. And the research bears that out.
It's just a good sample set. I think it as a continual business case for purpose as well. Michael Porter in his 5 forces analysis, he's talking about, you know, what called barriers to entry, what are the things that differentiate you. Having a purpose makes it much easier to connect with an audience, makes it much more difficult for competitors to compete against you. It makes it easier to perhaps look at premiums that you charge on your services. So I think in all of this here, let's not run away with this idea that having a sense of purpose, whether it's a social purpose, a financial purpose, an environmental purpose, means that you shouldn't make money. You mentioned earlier on, Jo, about CIC, social enterprises. Well, they've all got in common, they're all businesses. Where they differ is what they do with the funds and the monies and the profits they generate. Some will reinvest for advancing their purposes. Some will use it to advance the purpose and perhaps use it for personal gain. So the only thing that for me that differentiate is how you go about making that money, what you do with that money, but they all have the same business approach. And they're all, for me, there's no differentiation between them as businesses.
Yeah, and making more money, provided it's done in the right way and in line with the values of the organisation, making more money is really good, because you can do more with that money to achieve the purpose. The business is more sustainable, it's more resilient, and so on. So it becomes a really positive cycle, doesn't it? That you can reinvest into doing good stuff, and then, you know, you can grow and then do more good stuff, and so on. It's also interesting that the same research shows that, or connected research actually shows that the new generation of employees who are coming through from millennials onwards actually want to work for businesses that are making a difference, that have a clear purpose. They don't want to just turn up, you know, and contribute to making a fortune somewhere, you know, that doesn't do anything for the greater good. They want to have that sense of mission and purpose as well. So, you know, for attracting really great, talented, you know, the next generation of people and leaders coming through, it's really important that we get clear on purpose. And even though you might be able to feel it in here, it's very important that we express it, and that we can express it very clearly, so that it can be on the website, so we can talk about it on social media, so we can put it in the recruitment ads and things that we do. And then people will get it. And it's about living, you know, living that purpose and living those values. Because of course, where there's a mismatch between purpose and values and behaviours, then, you know, that loses trust, and trust, of course, is very difficult to regain once it's been lost, and trust is very precious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if I had a numbers spin on that as well, if I think about, you talked about employees, if you talk about employee retention, it's 3 times more expensive to recruit new employees than it is to retain them. It's about 3 times more expensive to get new customers than it is to keep the existing ones. If we look in terms of, if we don't actually document it, if we don't actually have it there encapsulated on the website, in our mission statements, clearly there, we're less likely to monitor it, we're less likely to measure it. It's difficult to set the KPIs. I know we're going to talk about KPIs in a future broadcast here, but if you think something is important in your business, you've got to be able to stand forward and say, this is my purpose, this is my why. And I just think the more we talk about this, the stronger the business case. And I think I just can't really find an argument for not having a sense of purpose in your business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved what Sarah did from Go Well when Sarah was on the show, and her purpose is really clear. It's to affect the lives of, I think it's 1 million, but maybe if Sarah's watching, she'll correct me either live or on replay if I've got that wrong. But it's actually to affect the lives of 1 million young people with their positive well-being and their physical education as well. So she's gone out there and said, that's what we're all about, everybody. That's what we want to do. And that is super clear, super ambitious. And that ambition's good, because it gets everybody behind it. Hi, Georgia. It's really great to hear from you. It's saying it's interesting. And Georgia does some awesome work and really helps clients with financial planning and getting profitable, getting numbers in order and supporting them on the way. I'd love to hear, Georgia, have a think about it. What's your purpose, would you say?
Well,
mine is pioneer making tax digital. Brilliant. And again, you could ask why. Why is that important? And for all sorts of reasons, isn't it?
Yeah, so good. So again, I think for taking Sarah, we take Rachel, we take all some of the future members that are going to come on here. The purpose, every time we talk about purpose, it's as long as it's clear. And if you haven't got that clarity, that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop. I mean, if I was to be honest with myself, Joe, I've been in business for quite a number of years, about 25 plus years here. I didn't always have a sense of the why. I didn't always have a sense of the purpose. Very much like that hamster in a hamster's wheel. You think you just go through the motions doing it. So if you are a business owner out there that hasn't identified your sense of purpose, that's fine. You amongst many other people who don't, we suggest that you try and find your why. And I think you're just going to find it so liberating in your business.
Yeah. And it's actually being on the hamster wheel repeatedly. Sometimes people get to a point where they go, I don't want to be on this hamster wheel anymore. Right, I've got to get off. And it's having been on the hamster wheel, though they step off, the world keeps turning, but they step off it for a little while. Have a think, really focus, really sort of get it, even if it's not clearly expressed, they've got it, in the hearts and minds in terms of why they're doing what they're doing. And then they can sort of get back in the game and crack on with renewed enthusiasm and renewed focus as well. So it's the hamster wheel can actually drive us helpfully to finding purpose, I think, and just articulating what that is.
Yeah, and I think if you invest that time at the beginning, it's like we talked about over the broadcasts that we've had so far through the Business Growth Club, we've talked about identifying missions, coming up with planning. If people are out there thinking, I don't need to do all this stuff, I know what I'm doing exactly, I think that's great that you've kept everything in there. I think it's fantastic that you can grow a business without any reference to any documentation. You're on your own, by the way, because it's a very minority pursuit. Any business that you admire, any business owner that you think, I think you're doing great things, behind the scenes, there's an underpinning plan. Behind the scenes, there's an understanding about the processes and the detail. There's an understanding of the value, the why, and all the rest of it. The outside surface may not be that way, but they've actually gone through that motion here. So I'd recommend, whether it's with us, obviously, which I would say, come and join our Business Growth Club, but you need to have a sense of planning. You need to have a sense of why. You need to invest in order to actually sort of deliver some financial returns and sort of, I would say, personal returns as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Unless you're in something where it's quick, quick in and out, make a quick buck and then gone, which is fine. There are opportunities that pop up like that. But if it's something that you're going to be in for the long haul, then make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Make sure it's something that you enjoy, and that will, keep the fire burning every single morning, especially these dark mornings when you're getting out of bed.
I like that actually. I like that, especially when it comes to winter. I don't know what it's like in Yorkshire at the moment, but it's window scraping off the car moment at the moment.
It's not that icy quite yet, but it's dark, but hey ho, it is what it is. And I love Christmas, and I love all the holidays and things that go with it. So
why don't we push the Christmas tree actually towards the end of the year, coming on our broadcast?
We should, but we're going to do a Christmas special, aren't we? We're going to bring some of our previous Growth Club members on, the ones you've met already, and also we're going to bring on some new people that you haven't met yet that you're going to meet in the future, and have a bit of a Christmas special, and just celebrate and have some fun with you as well.
What would you say that would be the one takeaway or tip, Jo, that you'd give to our listeners as far as sense of purpose?
Yeah, really engage with the things that bring you joy, and that that are the real driver towards you putting the effort in, and try not to do the things that don't, and the things that pull you down. And if there are things you have to do, delegate them. That's okay, or outsource them, or whatever. And we've got our reason why is in our strap line: maximising welding potential. Brilliant. Okay, thumbs up back from me on that one. Thank you. Yeah, maximising potential. Yeah, you're not just providing welding services as just as a thing just for itself. It's there for a reason. It's about potential, and it's about growth, and it's about contributing something significant. So that's great.
It makes me think about when you started the show, you talked about Apple moving away from that product-centric business to actually more of an experience type business here. So that why is a great thing. I think for me is, if you don't clearly know what your why is, that's fine, in the sense of lots of business owners don't know what their why is. I think trying to discover what your why is going to be really quite cathartic, really very liberating, really insightful, and it has a lot more positivity. Obviously, we would say that come and join the Growth Club, listen to the broadcast, and you can help discover that why. In terms of next week, I think we got a wonderful guest coming up next week, and I think we've got a great topic that we both are we here. So the idea for next week, folks, by the way, is we're going to be talking about business resilience, and there's a great little story that I heard about business resilience, which I think encapsulates the reason why we're doing that. There's an old proverb story about every single day in Africa, a gazelle wakes up and thinks, right, my purpose today, what I've got to do is to make sure I outrun the fastest lion there is. Otherwise, I'm going to get killed and get eaten. The lion, when they wake up, says, I've got to outrun the slowest gazelle so I can be fed and I don't get starved. By sunrise, when the sun rises, just make sure, whether you're a lion or a gazelle, that you keep on running. And for me, I think that's a great way to encapsulate that. I'm looking forward to business resilience next week. What's your thoughts just in terms of takeaway, Jo, on the introduction to the idea of business resilience that we're going to be talking about next week?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic segue, first of all, from purpose, because the purpose is the thing that keeps you going when times are hard, and resilience is that ability to keep going, that bounce back ability that we all need to have in business because it's ups and downs. And we said we were going to talk about resilience quite a few weeks ago, didn't we? So we've had it for next week. And I think it's just more important than ever in these times that we have that conversation. And really, we're here to help think about what business resilience means today, what it could look like going forward, and how we can help with that. So that's going to be a value-packed show for sure.
100%. And just to let everyone know, by the way, resilience is more than just attitude and mindset. It's a very practical thing, as well as an approach and attitudinal thing. And we have a special guest coming on next week. Beverly, I believe, is coming on next week.
Yeah, Beverly is fantastic. So Beverly is an expert at winning bids and tenders. She's an expert in all sorts of things, actually, but that is one of her key professional focus areas. And she's got a great product that she's developing that will help businesses win more bids and tenders and do it in a more robust, deliverable, resilient way. So it's going to be awesome to hear from Beverly.
100%. So listen, folks, thank you very much for your company tonight. So along the ticker tape, we'll publish the details later on. If you're interested in hearing more about the Business Growth Club, doors are open. We've got a very small number of people that we're looking to take on in January 21. There's a link to the website. You can read about it, what's involved. We've got an outline of what the program is. There's an early bird price as well. That's there as well. So we recommend check it out, have a look at it. If you're not quite sure, join the mailing list. We're going to mail you tips every single week about what's going on and a guide about business growth. So until then, have a fantastic week, and we look forward to your company next week.
Yeah, stay safe. See you next week. Thanks for joining.
Take care.